Okay, I've got my, cleaned one of my clips I've had some black in it, got nice and clean, so nothing else is in there, it's black. And I found this color here, it is 914 Touch-Up, which means this has been saved by Chris Arpin for, he did 914 cars, so this is a very important paint that he probably doesn't want anyone messing with, so I grabbed it. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and use it on this as a base color. I don't really know what this, I know that I believe Kennedy made a comment about it's a candy red, with a little bit of the magenta added to it. Anything else to it, or is that about it?
That's it.
That's it? Okay, cool. So we'll see. Which
more blue shade.
A little bit of blue shade in there? Okay, cool. Let's see what this color looks like. I add just a little bit of 4011 to it. And I add it to the airbrush because Kennedy always likes when I add reducer to my airbrush. That's his favorite way of reducing, which is not the proper way to reduce, but we do that. We do that. It happens. And that just happened. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come over the whole thing lightly with this and then get it really dark from that side over here. And it sprays like a candy because guess what? It is. Actually spraying a little bit thicker, better than the candy. Well, it wants to model. Got to be careful. I don't want to get too dark here. I'm just going to get really red over here on this side. Spray air. And by the way, when you're spraying air on these things, another reason I like using the airbrush is I can also control it. Notice I'm not getting any red up in here, and all I got is some masking tape. Maybe a little bit. It's not that big a deal. But when you're spraying air, do not add heat to it. Do not use a heat gun. Do not use a hairdryer. Even if you have a hairdryer that has 2 settings, you're going to be, put it on the warmer setting. No, no, no. Just use air. Use air. Because I'll tell you something, heat can dry it, but it'll trap moisture inside. Air increases the drying of this paint exponentially. Makes it cure so much faster. And unless you're like me, and you got it really wet. So I really got to get some air going on this. The magic of editing. So we get our air going on my air bar. These things are great. I mean, granted, they're not really good for microphones and videos, but it actually can spray. Tell you something. These things spray more air than comes out of here because what it's doing is it sprays a higher volume. The air comes through here, creates a venturi, and then sucks air from the rest of the room and puts it forward. So the air in your hose, it actually is able to like do an exponential amount of air coming out. Feels pretty good too. And much better for drying your paint and no heat involved. Let's see how we're going here with the candy. And my magic air below it. Okie doke. Since paint is really exciting to watch dry, we kind of edited that out. So a couple more coats, and I got a nice blend from light all the way to the full, what I think is the full color. I'm not sure what base he was intended to spray this over, but nice candy blend there. And I remasked this area here, and I'm going to come in with a tinted version. I'm going to take that same candy in the airbrush. I'm not even going to take it out of the airbrush. I'm just going to come in and just add some candy black. I'm not even sure how much. I'm just going to be really careful and add just a little bit. That's all I need. Probably added like 5 drops to it. Let's see the difference that makes. You can see the difference. Even shaking it up real good, you'll still see the difference right off the bat. The fact that the candy, when it comes in all of a sudden, see how much darker it got right there. And I'm going to come in and use this new version. I'm going to a little bit more. Let me do maybe 2 more drops. When I'm at 3.5. I want it to be kind of dark. If I make it too dark, I can always add more candy to it. It's not the end of the world. I'm trying to get a nice dark red. Maybe a little more red. That's better. And I'm going to come in and do a light coat of this, let it dry. So get that as a nice glue coat. Now you want to do that to make sure it doesn't get blotchy. You're also doing this to make sure, like I had a little bit of a bleed on this tape. Normally when I'm doing candies, I won't tape with a crepe tape, I'll tape with a vinyl tape. It was my mistake on this. And because the crepe tape wants to bleed, vinyl is a lot cleaner when you're working with the Candy 2.0. So do as I say, not as I do. But by drying this first really good, you'll kind of seal the edge of the tape with paint that's not that wet, and it won't bleed as much. And I can come in and layer in some more of this tinted, modified 914 red. Let me show it to this Chris. Say, yeah, I added some candy black to your bottle. I hope you don't mind. Chris loves me. Let's use magic air blower on this one. Now the cool thing about, if you just added pure black to your candy, just straight black, a good possibility a pigmented black is going to just kill the chroma in the color, especially in a candy dye. This is a dye candy black, which has a violet in it. So it's just really kind of almost, it's darkening, but it's also kind of adding to making it a maroonish, almost a burgundy color. And magic air dryer. Now, I'm making fun of magic air dryer and you're laughing at it. Magic air dryer will save you hours on graphics when you're doing water-based, especially with candies. So you can make fun of it. Don't take it lightly. Now that's about as much. I could keep on layering this, and the black is going to continue to dominate until this literally turns totally black. Right now this is a really, really, really dark red, and I put a little bit more black in there than I probably should have, but I want to demonstrate. This is what's called a wet tint. When you're wet tinting, you're actually adding the black candy into the red candy itself, and I was going back and forth, a little bit of red, a little bit of black, until I got what I wanted. That gives you a specific color that you can spray. Now, there is a difference between layering your tints. If you do a black wet tint with your candy, it'll have more consistent depth of color, depth of field, than if you just tint on top of an existing candy that may have depth of field already. You're kind of killing a little bit of that depth of field by adding a dark on top. Honestly, the naked eye won't see the difference unless you compare them side by side. It's like doing I always say, doing a fake candy compared to a real candy. Now, for those of you that want to know what the hell a fake candy is, if you take like a silver base and you add red candy to it, so it's like this pinkish kind of silver base, and you spray that on there, and then you end up doing 4 coats of candy apple red instead of 9 coats of candy apple red, and it looks almost the same unless you put 2 cars side by side in the sun. The one that is the 9 coats on top of the silver will have more depth of field. It will look better. The other one, a lot less material, a lot easier to do, and I'll let you in on something, a hell of a lot easier to touch up than to come back in and blend a silver. A lot easier to touch up. So when we call them cheater coats or candy coats, I'll let you know something. The reason Kosmosky created those candy concentrates was so that you could do cheaters in the door jambs of cars. So you wouldn't have to do complete 9 coats of candy apple red in a door jamb. You could do a cheater coat, come in with the candy apple red, tint the existing silver, and then put candy on top of it and do maybe 3 or 4 coats, because jams are a nightmare in cars. Neat little tricks like that. It's custom painting, hey. it's its own warning label. So that's pretty dry right there. I'm going to go ahead and switch out airbrushes, and I'm going to go with pure candy black and come in and just tint this one to try and match that, to show you how we can get a very similar tint by layering candy black on top of red instead of mixing candy black with red. Okay, we're ready to go. Okay, I've got my mixture of 40, 50 and candy black with a little bit of reducer in there. I had to make another batch because remember I mixed up my candy with my opaque. So this is just pure candy black with the UVLS 4050 and a little bit of reducer. And what I'm going to do with this, I want to test it here, see how it's spraying. It's spraying good. I'm going to very lightly come in at the top and just dust it until I match what I have below. So that's why I masked off this center, and then I did this color over the silver. So I'm trying to create a mimic of this color. I may not be able to because the layers of white the white in the base of this one may make it a little bit different. But you can see how I can successfully come over with this pure candy black. Well, not pure, it's got UVLS in it, but it's not black and opaque. I probably went a little bit heavy on it. It's also got a little bit more of a gloss than I probably would want on there. But you can see how dry tinting, where you're just coming in with this color on top, you can get quite a nice color. And that's the original color there. And then adding black to it, you'll get that. Now when you clear coat this will actually have more depth, because it's candy pure and pure all the way through. But you'd only see it side by side. This one may look darker only because, remember, that candy black has a lot of UVLS and it's shined up. And when it's shiny, it always, to the camera and to the naked eye, looks blacker. That's why a matte black car will never look as black in many situations as a gloss black car, just because that gloss shiny. Same way matte white car always look a little bit dirty compared to a gloss white car, as long as both of them are clean. So that is a little example of how you can take and use your candy black to dry and wet tint an existing candy already. Now there's another trick I use my candy black for, and it's a lot in my illustration work, is I love using the vascular violet that's part of Tim Gore's Bloodline series. As a matter of fact, I have to say 95% of all my paintings are using Bloodline. The only reason I say 95% is because the other 5%, I will use some of my own Candy 2.0 or just some standard colors from the illustration kit in there. But it's all Createx, all my fine artwork for Disney or Lucasfilm or whatever. But all of that work, when I come in and I'm doing details, I don't like using just pure black. I never use pure white, and I never use pure black, because I always like to be able to go back and if I need white to really punch out, but I've got a lot of white already on there, it won't punch out. Now if I need black to really stand out, if I got a lot of black in the piece, it's going to be too dark already for the black to stand out. So what I'll do is I'll do a dark black for my details that's more of a violet. It looks like a nice black detail, but it's actually done with violet. So I'll use a combination of vascular violet, and then I'll add a little bit of candy black to that vascular violet to give me a even more purpley candy black, because it's got a little bit more body than just a candy black. And I'll show you an example of that right now. I'll clean my brush out and we'll mix up some of that. Okie dokie, let's go ahead and make up that vascular violet. Now I want to kind of show you how I make the mix, and I'll come in and I'll start out with some 40-50. If I'm working on canvas, I don't use 40-50. What I'll use is like a 40-30. And the reason I do that is I really like to do erasing techniques and removal techniques, and sometimes reactivate my paints. The problem is UVLS is too damn good. It actually is so tough, it messes with my erasing abilities, and coming in and reactivating, I have to use alcohol to reactivate a UVLS clear. So if I was on a canvas, I would use 40-30 more than I would the UVLSs. Give it a good shake. Remember, if there's a ball in there, it's there for your enjoyment. And I'm going about a 1-to-1 mixture of the 40-50 with the vascular violet. Now this by itself will noticeably tint down the vascular violet. Not tint down, thin down, sorry, my bad. And a little bit, there's maybe 5% reducer in there, not much. And I'm going to show you what this looks like by itself in the airbrush without any candy yet, because I want you to get an idea. This is not, now cool thing about Tim Gore's colors, and the reason I like them is they're not pure colors. They're already kind of muddied up a little bit, kind of dirtied up, he likes to say. There's, you know, they kind of mimic life. And life ain't perfect, and neither are Tim's colors. They're just, they reflect reality. So they're a little bit dingy already, which is great. Now this is a little bit of a reddish tone violet, hence the term vascular violet. And it's got a little dirt to it. It's not completely clean, because if it was, it would be way too pinky. But that right there almost looks like a candy. It's so brilliant. It's not. That's just illustration. Now the thing is that that's an illustration color. That's used for illustration. It's used for makeup. It's used for prosthetics. It's used for artwork. But I added 50-50 to UVLS. That's an automotive paint now. Sorry, that's what it is now. Because I'll tell you, and the cool thing about Createx, all of the pigments, whether they be dye or whether they be ground pigments, every single color, every single pigment, if you're a fine artist, they're archival. If you're an automotive painter, they're automotive quality. That's all you need to know, automotive grade. They're not going to fade. They're not going to mean everything fades in time. But trust me, they're not going to fade unduly like many colors that are not designed for the automotive industry. Every one of these colors can handle it. So even Tim Gore's paint, which Tim did not design this for the automotive industry, I will mix it up with the UVLS and I will use it as an automotive paint. I've used many of his paints as murals on cars, or fades even. Now, one of the main difference between Tim Gore's colors and a candy is that Tim Gore's colors are pigmented paint. They're pigmented colors. They're not dyes. The Candy 2.0 system is a dye system. It's a metal dye that's automotive grade that is highly transparent. Because of that, the more you layer it, the darker it gets. If I keep on layering this, you know what's going to get? It's a little bit darker maybe, but after a while, it gets to what's called a ceiling color. That's the color you're going to get. It's not going to get, it's an opaque. It's not a true, it's more of a semi-opaque. But even a semi-opaque, after a while, it just ceilings out. And that's all the color is going to give you. So if I wanted to layer this and get darker and darker and darker and darker, like I can do with a violet candy, it won't work. But I can supercharge just a little bit of black candy, which will darken it already and give me that ability of it to layer. If you want, you can even add any of the other candies. I could add a Candy Caribe blue to this and turn this from being a pinkish violet to a bluish violet that has more candy tendencies. As long as you add Candy 2.0 to it, you're adding candy to it, you're not going to turn it into a pure candy. You cannot take an opaque paint or a semi-opaque and turn it into a candy. You can take a candy and turn it into a semi-opaque by adding 1 drop of opaque. That's the way the rule is. It's not reciprocal. So I'm going to go ahead and just add, again, the favorite way that Kennedy loves it when I mix, because it's so accurate. Just eyeball. A couple of drops. There we go. That's it. It's the Julia Child, method of mixing. We've got some candy black in the violet now. We've done it now. Okay. Let's see how it goes. Instantly, you notice it is much darker right off the bat. And it's got a little bit of a tone to it. Why? Because there's a little bit of purple in this already in the candy black, and now it's going to kind of react with Tim Gore's vascular violet in there. But what it gives me is instantly, notice how dark it gets all of a sudden. Wham! Almost like 5 or 6 drops of candy black, and this thing was filled that high, like almost an ounce of paint in there. Or half an ounce, whatever hold these airbrushes hold. See, that's almost solid black now. It's not though. Under light, you'll see the violet at a little bit of an angle. Compared to black, if I put black right next to it, that'll look like it's violet. But see how we can really create a really interesting broad spectrum. Not only that, the color itself is kind of a cool color to work with. You can kind of blend. See, if I come in down here, you're saying, well, that was just black you put over it. No, it wasn't. Look at this. coming in around the existing black, it looks just like the vascular violet. Doesn't look that much different. Look how nice it is. See, it's deceiving, isn't it? It's not. You know, you say, well, yeah, but that looks really. It's compared to the real violet, and I can come in, pull the air cap off of this little sucker, and see what kind of. Let me drop the pressure down just a bit. I can get some really thin lines. I mean, this is an eclipse. This isn't my micron. And then, you know, I can get a nice violet there, but if I keep on layering this violet, it'll keep on getting darker and darker, see? Whereas this one wouldn't. This will just keep getting darker and darker. So it's a way of creating hybrid paints. Custom painting isn't anything if you don't experiment. Now, what I've showed you with is just a really, I mean, there's a lot of examples using candy black. There's infinite number of things you can use candy black for. The key with custom painting is to experiment, try it your own. It's like, what would happen if I added candy black to emerald green? What would happen if I added candy black to grabber orange? Try it. Go get yourself. You can get the small little box set of the Candy 2.0 and be Bill Nye the paint guy. And just do all the experimentation you want with the Candy 2.0 and find out what happens. You may be surprised. Say, man, it takes a lot of this candy to reflect this candy. Man, it only takes one drop of this. You're going to notice some candies are dominant candies. In other words, some colors, only one drop is all it takes to wipe out the other color. Other ones, you're like, to put in like 20 drops to affect it. Knowing this makes you a better painter. Knowing these tricks, the only way you know them. Did I learn this? I go to class for this? No. You know, did I learn this by watching other people do it? Yeah, a little bit here and there. You know how I learned this? By just messing around, by woodshedding, by going to my shop and just like, oh, I wonder what will happen. Not necessarily, oh, I can't do that because I was told not to. Oh, no one ever does that. I've never heard of that. Anytime you ever see I've never done it, I was told not to, or it's never been done, that's a possible custom technique that you need to go ahead and try and do. And mastering Candy 2.0, mastering any paint system you have out there is the key to being the best custom painter. You're only as good as your techniques, and your techniques are only as recent and as up to date as you are in practicing and learning this. So I hope all these different techniques we've done here with the Candy 2.0 black mixed in with the jet black opaque, so you can see literally, you know, all the fun things you can do with black. And black's not there just to spray black on. It's not there just for a drop shadow. Blacks are very integral and very important in all kinds of murals, all kinds of artwork, all types of graphics. So hope these techniques helped you out a bit. And I will see you at the next Candy Theory video. I'll see you then.